Okay, there's a lot of Blackworm updates in this video, so I'm going to do it a little bit different. I'm actually going to play the explainer video first so you get all the numbers and see what's new going on, and then I'll show you the live shots afterwards. So enjoy.
Welcome back to the explainer. Today we're diving straight into the fascinating progress, a few unexpected crises, and honestly, the ultimate success of our ongoing Blackworm stone structure trial. If you've been following this journey, you know that cultivating these organisms is a really delicate balancing act between biology and physics. So we're going to break down exactly how an early biological failure was completely turned around into a thriving, highly stable system.
Here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the Day 41 problem, look at our 4 breeder box setups, discuss the microbial loop crisis, correct the timeline, check out week 4 post-propagation, and finally, wrap up with stable nitrates and success.
All right, Section 1, the Day 41 problem and why we absolutely needed a change.
To really appreciate where we are now, you have to understand the defeat we faced in the previous trial. That last experiment crashed hard on Day 41. It was like hitting a brick wall, all thanks to skyrocketing, unmanageable nitrates. Back then, we were using mulms straight out of a fish tank, but for this current trial, we completely overhauled our approach. We're isolating the physical structure as the primary variable, and instead of raw waste, we're using a mature biofloc reactor that processes the mulm with molasses as a carbon source. The goal? To easily sustain a healthy 4 to 6 week duration without that dreaded Day 41 crash.
Moving on to Section 2, the 4 breeder box setups and how we're setting our boundaries. Let's clear up exactly what we're working with here. We are utilizing exactly 4 fluval breeder boxes to isolate physical structure as our main variable. These identical hang-on boxes give us the absolute perfect, uniform environment for our control and experimental groups. So we know for sure that the only thing changing between the systems is the physical stone media and the specific diet they're getting. Let's break them down. System 1 pairs the largest, jagged Estes Cherokee purple stones with Hikari carnivore pellets. This system tests how the worms handle large, irregular physical crevices while processing a really dense, high-protein diet. Over in System 2, we're using the smallest, smooth Estes Mexican beach pebbles, and we've paired those with Bug Bite's cichlid formula. Here, the structure is tightly packed and smooth, which creates a totally different anchoring environment for the worms to navigate. Then we have System 3, which features medium, smooth Estes jumbo gems alongside Bug Bite's tropical formula. This is basically our middle ground for physical structure. Moderate crevice sizes paired with a highly palatable insect larva-based food. And finally, System 4 tests fluval ammonia-reducing media fed with Bug Bite's bottom feeder formula. This one acts as our highly porous control, giving us chemical filtration properties and a massive amount of internal surface area. What's really cool here is how sponsor brands like Estes and Fluval are providing the literal structural foundation for our experimental parameters. We have these 4 beautifully distinct setups, all perfectly paired with their respective diets.
Okay, Section 3, the microbial loop crisis. This was a crucial pivot for us.
Because, science rarely goes perfectly to plan. Early on, we hit a massive biological wall, and it all came down to the microbial loop. Now, this isn't just about good bacteria turning ammonia into nitrate. In a closed culture like this, the microbial loop is absolutely vital for processing heavy protein loads and balancing the carbon-to-nitrogen ratio. If that loop isn't established, metabolic byproducts build up fast. And since blackworms breathe directly through their skin, that buildup literally suffocates them at the substrate surface, even if the water itself is oxygen-rich. And unfortunately, that is exactly what happened. In weeks 1 and 2, right after feeding, the worms started flailing erratically. They unanchored from their pristine new stones and looked completely disoriented. It was a massive red flag. The biological maturation of the substrate was an absolute failure at that point. The immature microbial loop just couldn't handle the protein loading from the pellets, and we were literally on the brink of losing all the cultures. So we had to act immediately. We executed a rescue protocol by harvesting mature, molasses-fed biofloc straight from our reactor. Then we heavily inoculated all the systems, pouring that mature mulm directly over the ST stones and marine pure gems. And guys, the results were staggering. Within 24 hours, the erratic flailing stopped completely. The cultures fully stabilized and the worms safely re-anchored into their structures. The secret weapon of that rescue was placing 1 marine pure gem into each breeder box. These highly porous gems, right alongside the Estes stones, provided the exact surface area needed for that heavily inoculated mature biofloc to grab hold.
It established a supercharged microbial loop that quite literally saved the experiment.
Which brings us to Section 4, correcting the timeline and figuring out exactly where we are now. Let me just break the fourth wall for a second and correct the record on our timeline, because there's been some confusion out there. We are not waiting for the propagation phase to happen. That already occurred at the very beginning of week 3. After our biofloc rescue in the first 2 weeks, the worms were propagated and they have already fully regrown. So as of right now, we are sitting firmly in week 4, which is the post-propagation adjustment phase.
All right, Section 5. Let's look at our Week 4 post-propagation observations.
Now that we're firmly in week 4, the turnaround is just incredible. The worms are fully regenerated, completely settled into their stone environments, and showing zero signs of that earlier flailing. Feeding rates are through the roof. We're actually feeding 4 pellets daily, 2 in the morning, 2 in the evening, and they are clearing it fast. The population is clearly increased, and we've even noticed a harmless secondary detritivore, likely Alosoma, that hitched a ride on the tank mom. But instead of causing trouble, it seems to be working right alongside our supercharged microbial loop. And that leads us nicely into Section 6, stable nitrates and success, the ultimate victory metric. This right here is the most critical data point of this entire explainer. 25 ppm. Nitrates are holding dead steady at exactly 25 ppm across all 4 systems. And remember, the whole reason the previous trial failed so spectacularly on day 41 was because nitrates climbed totally out of control. Just take a look at this table. Across all 4 distinct physical stone setups, ammonia is at 0, nitrite is at 0, nitrates are locked to 25 ppm, and temperatures are incredibly consistent, hovering right around 74 degrees. The biological stability across the board here is just totally uniform. That steady 25 ppm nitrate level, that is our smoking gun. It's absolute proof that heavily inoculating the systems with biofloc worked. The supercharged microbial loop, anchored to those marine pure gems and Estes stones, is actively consuming the nitrogen that doomed us last time. These cultures aren't just surviving, their biological engine is thriving, chewing through heavy protein loads without breaking a sweat. So when you look at these incredibly healthy, rapidly multiplying blackworms securely anchored in their physical structures, it completely validates the biofloc rescue method. By combining targeted physical structure with an artificially supercharged microbial loop, we've essentially cracked the code on stable, high-yield blackworm culture. As we wrap up this explainer, I'll leave you with this exciting question to chew on. Just how far can we push this biofloc methodology to accelerate growth in our future propagation cycles? The physical boundaries are set, the biology is locked in, and the possibilities are wide open. Keep learning, keep experimenting, and we'll see you in the next explainer.
So as you can see, the numbers look great. So let's go ahead and look at each system. This is system number 1. And those little detrivore worms that I talked about in the explainer, well, you can see them all over the breeder box. It's literally covered every inch you can see. But another thing you notice, there are plenty of blackworms in this culture. That does not seem to be hindering our blackworm reproduction and growth at all. I wouldn't say it's any competition for our blackworm cultures. You can even see in culture number 2, this is the one that's being fed the flugel cyclopites. You can see their digestive tract. You can see it's full. They are eating plenty of food. Another thing that's full is this entire breeder box full of blackworms. Really, the populations have exploded. Every system has stable, stationary worms, no erratic behavior. All the worms are in their normal positions, head down eating underneath the substrate and tails waving in the water column. And another thing we have to remember, since these systems are packed with microbes and those little tiny clear worms, the blackworms are eating more for this experiment than they did the prior experiment. Even though we're at the same level feeding 2 pellets in the morning, 2 pellets in the evening, the blackworms are consuming all those microorganisms that we inoculated the mom with and those little clear worms. They all have a life cycle. They're going to die eventually. And as soon as they do, they become food for the entire system. So the microbes are processing all the waste that we were feeding in the prior experiment, plus some. So it really is a supercharged system. It really is amazing that the nitrates are only at 25. So I really wonder how far we could push feeding, having more of the microbial loop present than before. Well, I'm just going to have to push it to the limit to see where that limit is.